This is part 2 of Dreams for Bedtime Listening. I was sitting at a table with about 6 girls when someone bought a pizza that was in a brown paper bag, and it was literally dripping with oil. It was short, 1 piece, so I went to buy a piece. I gave the sales clerk a $20 bill, and there was no change. When I went back to the table, Dawn Ford was sitting next to me. She had a new haircut, shorter in back, with long sides, and bluish mauve color. It looked very cute on her, I thought in my dream. I wanted to tell her about being charged $20 for 1 piece of pizza, but not in front of the others. We went to the other side of the room and sat on the floor in a corner. She was wearing glasses. Some guy walked by and sneezed, spraying the front of her glasses, but she ignored it. I said, "Take off your glasses. I can't see you." I told her about the cost of the pizza and felt bad because I couldn't afford to spend that much on a single piece of pizza. But even worse, for not questioning it, just accepting it. In the next scene, I was walking with Dawn through some people's front yards, carrying an armful of flowers in bloom that were ready for planting. They had long stems, there were different varieties and colors, and not in a container. I stopped to plant them in a stranger's garden and finished just as he came home. I said, "Do you like them?" And he said he did, but that was the side of the garden his cat liked to scratch in and to remove them, which I did. My dream was of some man that we knew, it might have been Silvo, who had been shrunk to about 1.5 inches, and he looked like a slimy, shiny brown bug with arms, legs, and a head. At some point, we couldn't find him and were concerned he'd been stepped on. We searched on our hands and knees, but all we could find was one big brown beetle moseying along. In another scene, we were walking through a park and saw a huge blue jay being fed by a man. The jay flew down on the grass and spread its wings. It was the size of a man, and its wings looked squared off when it spread them. I saw a smaller blue jay and went to feed it some crumbs I had in my hand. Just as the bird jumped down and started to eat them, a little girl walking in the park with her father took them away from the bird. I was watching myself on TV, doing a newscast of some kind with another girl who was brown-skinned, but I don't know anything else about her. I was wearing a casual gray skirt and a gray baseball cap that had a logo of some kind on it. I sounded and looked horrible. I didn't want anyone to see me, as I was truly embarrassed by how unprofessional I looked and sounded. There was a big bird that looked like a brown chicken behind my head as I sat up in bed. When I got out of bed, the bird was facing me and tried to attack me. I was holding on to both its legs, one in each hand, and its head turned into that of an owl, with fierce eyes staring at me as if it wanted to pick out my eyes. The bird was so strong, I could barely hold it back, and I yelled for someone to help me. I was writing a song and came up with a fantastic, catchy lyric. I wanted to become a songwriter as I was very good at it, and I calculated how many songs I could write in a week. In reality, I could not remember the lyrics or title of the song when I woke up. I also dreamt I was going to an all-women's professional development seminar for the weekend in Ontario, and I traveled from Montreal to be there. I was going with an old friend from Toronto, Elizabeth. I was late, and she walked just ahead of me towards what from the outside looked like an ordinary brick bungalow. Suddenly, I found myself on a balcony watching her walk off and about to disappear into the house. I was afraid to jump down, but when I looked around, there were other people on much higher balconies, and they were all jumping and landing safely. Some of them looked up and told me to jump, but I was still afraid. I said I had broken both my ankles before and had to be careful on doctor's orders. I don't know how I got down, but soon found myself inside the house, which turned out to be huge inside and full of separate rooms and long curving turning hallways. There were other people signing up for seminars everywhere I turned, but I could not find the room I was supposed to be in. I could not remember the name of the seminar organizer or the name of the seminar. I finally found it when I saw Elizabeth sitting at a weird table with a group of women. They were drawing with strange-looking pens on pink plastic boards. I picked up a pen, and it stuck its tongue out at me. It looked like a cartoon worm on the tip, and I held it up to Elizabeth. It kissed her face and licked her. People were standing next to me watching me. People were standing next to me watching me write, and I felt like my space was being invaded. I was wearing pink striped pajamas in public. I didn't realize I had left home like that. I talked to my mother about it, and she did not respond, only with a dirty look, as if she was upset with me. I walked home to change my clothes, all the time actually worrying that I was losing my memory and that it was looking like it was going to be inevitable. There were huge bottles of expensive perfume sitting on a picnic table, and I took them inside. There were 2 big birds sitting on the roof, screaming down at Rocky as he was killing their baby bird on the lawn. I was sitting in a huge, winding swimming pool with a stranger. I had a facelift, in brackets, not willingly, but there were no mirrors for me to look in. Everyone around me said I looked like a great-looking monster. I was at a huge vocational school, underground, very dingy. People were working on various electrical projects and crafts. When I left, I was walking through an enormous room built of stone. I realized I was in a dream and kept walking and exploring. 2 friends, who I don't recall, joined me. When I told them I would not be going to university in the fall and explained why, they acted dumbfounded and very upset. I looked up and saw a lady who looked like Hillary Clinton, looking out of a second-floor shop window, and I went back to tell my friends about it. They reluctantly came with me, but by then the woman was no longer there. We went inside the shop, and another woman followed us closely and watched our every move as if we were thieves. The shop was packed with artificial plants and strange wall hangings made of sticks, etc. Most of the artificial plants and bushes had branches loaded with blooms. There were also racks of curtains with strange, bold patterns on them and very colorful. We left, and the next thing you know, I was at an event, and during intermission, I left to wander around. Then I realized I had left my purse sitting on a chair and rushed back to get it. Luckily, it was still there, and so was my friend's. I left her purse sitting there and watched to see if I could catch a thief. This is the end of part 2.